Assalamu alaikum students. How are you all? Hope you all are very fine children. And today's session I am going to start your new chapter. That is chapter 7. Let us measure. Now let us see what are the learning outcomes of this lesson. Children, you will be able to identify different measuring instruments, utilize different instruments at different situations of life, understand the standard units of measurements, measure physical quantities and express in standard units, take necessary precautions while measuring. Now let us enter into our lesson. Children, if you want to wish stitch a new shirt for you, at the time what you do, you will go to a cloth shop and you ask that a cloth merchant to give some 2 or 3 meters of cloth for your shirt. At that time how a cloth merchant measures in order to give you 2 or 3 meters of cloth for you. So he uses a metal rod in order to measure the length of the cloth. At the same time, when you want to go and buy some flowers, at that time, how you will buy those flowers? When the when you go to a flower shop at that time, a woman who is selling flowers, that to jasmine flowers, she gives you by measuring a string of jasmine flowers with her hand. Now let us see why was a metal rod, namely meter scale, as used to measure the length of the cloth. Why did the woman use her hand to measure the length of the jasmine flower string? Which method is the correct method? How can we decide the correct method of measurement? You might have observed many situations of measurement of length as in the above examples, where sometimes we use instruments and sometimes we use hands, foot, palms, etc. Now let us see some more examples where we use instruments to measure the length and some examples where we don't use any instrument but use foot, handspan, palm to measure the length in our lesson. Children, when you want to measure the length of your Dinyat table in your Dinyat class at that time, what you use? If you use hand span, then when you measure the length of that Dinyat table, how much hand span it will be? When the same table is measured by your friends, then how many hand spans it will be? It will be same or it will be different. So if you have by measuring the Dinya table, you have measured that its length is 7 handspans. If your friend has measured, it may be 6, and like that it may be different while you use a hand span. Or when you measure in your living room, the length of your living room, when you measure with your foot span, with your foot, then how many foot will it be? And if your father measures, and if your very younger brother measures it, then it will be same foot or it will be different. When your father and your younger brother, when you measure the length of the living room, it will be different for everyone. With the help of this hand span or foot span or cubit, when you have went to a flower shop at that time, a string of jasmine flowers she given by measuring with her hand. So this measurement is called as a cubit. So, with the help of a hand span or foot span or cubit, the measurement will not be same for all. It will be differing from one person to other person. So, now in our lesson, we are going to learn what is the correct measurement, which instruments are used in order to measure, or which which measurements are standard in order to measure different things. In our lesson in detail, we are going to learn. Now let us see a story of the scale. Many hundred years ago, people used to measure distances with their handspans strides. This is called as stride. You're seeing here stride. Or foot spans. One day, a very tall man went to a shop to buy some cloth. He asked for 3.5 arms length of cloth. The shopkeeper measured 3 arms lengths of this lengths of cloth and then added approximately another half arm length. The man felt that the shopkeeper had cheated him. So he measured the cloth with his arms and found that the cloth was not even 3 arms length. He told the shopkeeper that the length of the cloth was less than 3.5 arms when he measured with his own arm. The shopkeeper replied that his own arm was the standard for measuring. They both argued about whose arm was to be taken as standard measure. And those days, people arguing over measuring the length of fields, ropes, and hundreds of other things must have been a familiar fight. How should one measure a half or a quarter arm length? Finally, some sensible people got together and decided to have a scale of a fixed length in order to measure subunits. They marked this scale with several smaller but equal divisions. Then they decided that everyone would measure lengths with this scale. They used wood and metal scales of the same length. This was the story about a scale, and now we see what is 1 yard. At one place, people decided to use the distance between the nose and the tip of the middle finger of their king as a measure, as you are seeing in this picture. And you can see in your textbook, page number 73, figure 5, that picture also. They called this distance 1 yard. So, what is 1 yard here? The distance between the nose and the tip of the middle finger is called 1 yard. They used wood and metal to make scales of this length and called this distance 1 yard. So, what is this? 1 yard. That was in olden days. This yard was divided into 3 equal parts and each part was called a foot. They then divided each foot into 12 equal parts called inches. They even divided each inch into smaller segments. Other countries in the world also made their own scales like this because each country had its own scale which differed from others. It led to a lot of problems in trade and commerce. Then there was always a chance of quarrels breaking out in between the countries. Finally, in France, it was decided that a certain length of rod made of a special material, platinum iridium, would be called a meter. The meter was divided into 100 equal parts called centimeter. Each centimeter was further divided into 10 equal parts called millimeters. Now we are using this as a standard measurement for length and most part of the world. This original scale is preserved in a museum in France. The story explains the need for standard instruments to measure lengths. The meter scale is internationally accepted instrument for measuring lengths. 1 meter is a standard unit of length. We use a meter as a unit of length and subsequently centimeters and millimeters as smaller units of length. Now I see 1 meter is 100 centimeters, 1 centimeter is 10 millimeters, and 1 kilometer is 1000 meters. So 1 meter is 100 centimeters, 1 centimeter is 10 millimeters, and 1 kilometer is 1000 meters. This you should keep it in mind, children. You should remember these units. Now let us continue our lesson in our next session. Up to that, be happy. Allah Hafiz.